All right, today we are doing section 8.5, day 2. We are still going to be writing equations of lines, but today we are going to be given a point and the slope. So our point might not be the y-intercept, just some random point that is on the line. But to review, let's warm up by doing what we did on Wednesday, which was writing an equation in slope-intercept form using the slope and the intercept, the y-intercept. So for number 1, we need an equation in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. They told us what m and b equals. Who wants to tell me what the equation should be? Keon. Very good. Y equals 1x minus 8. Or if you want, you can just write y equals x minus 8. Either one of those would be fine. If you put plus negative 8, that's also okay. It's just not the best answer. Volunteers for number 2. Tariana? Y equals 1/5 x plus 6. Very good. Number 3, Ellie?
Y equals
7 over 2x minus 3. Very good. And number 4, Jamal? Y equals 1/2. Very good. Remember, if our slope is 0, 0x just cancels out to just be 0, and 0 plus 1/2 is 1/2. So that's why our answer is just y equals 1/2. Today we will be given a point and the slope, and we will still need to write an equation of a line. All right, point-slope form is a new form that we are going to work with today. So instead of slope-intercept, we're going to start off in point-slope form. Instead of y equals mx plus b, it looks like y minus y1 equals m, and then in parentheses, x minus x1. x1 and y1 are the x and y coordinates of the point that we're given. That's where the point part comes from. And m, of course, is still our slope. So this will be the easiest way to write an equation when we are given a point and the slope. All right, so we are asked to write the point-slope form of the equation of the line through the given point with the given slope. So if you need a refresher, you could write the general form up at the top. Y equals, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. When we do this, we are only plugging things in for y1, m, and x1. So just for y1, m, and x1. So x and y are still going to just stay x and y and x. All right, with our coordinate, it might help to label it. 4 is going to get plugged in for what? An x. So 4 is going to go in technically for our x1. And then that means the 1 back here is our y1. And slope is always our m. So then all we have to do is plug those things in. So the y that's out in the very front of that formula stays y, minus y1 is 1, equals m is also 1. And then in parentheses we would have x minus our x1 is 4. Now on this one, if you were to leave out the 1 in front of the parentheses, it would be okay. But we'll leave it there just so we can see everything. written in its place. And that's it. We just had to plug in x1, y1, and n to the right places. All right, we're going to do the same thing on number 2. So I'll just start writing my formula. Y minus, what's going in for y1? -4. Now goes my equal sign, m. What goes in for m? -2, parentheses, x minus, what goes in for x1? 1. If it helps, go through and label your point before you get started. x1, comma, y1. But this one we can simplify a little bit because over here we know that subtracting a negative means we're really doing what? Adding. So we can rewrite this as y plus 4 equals -2 times x minus 1. Yes, we really got to do that. Any new volunteers to help me out with example 3? Jakeem.
Y minus 3. Correct. I mean equal 12 parentheses x minus 3. Right?
So this is okay to start off with, but who can tell me how we could clean this up a little bit? Jaquan?
Y plus 3 equals 2/5 times x plus 1.
Very good. So anytime we see that we're subtracting a negative, it's fine to start out that way because that's just plugging it into the formula, but we should always simplify it and clean it up and rewrite it as addition instead. All right, any new volunteers for number 4? Ryan?
First, y minus 1 equals -1 times x minus -4, and then learn out y minus 1 equals -1/6 times x plus 4.
So I think we got the -1/6 in the right spot, but I'm not sure we got our x and y in the right spot. What is our y1 from this ordered pair?
Oh, it's 1.
The y?
Oh, the y? No, that's -4.
Okay, so I think we might have switched them up. So in for the y1 should go the -4. And in for the x1 should go the 1. And then you're right, we would want to clean it up and rewrite subtracting a negative as adding. One of the most common mistakes with these is wanting to just plug things in the order that we see them. Okay, so we see the x term first, so we want to plug it in first, but the y is actually what comes first. So that's why sometimes labeling your point x1, y1 helps you focus on what gets plugged in where. All right, so we're not just going to stop at only doing point slope form today. We are also going to take point slope form and turn it into slope intercept form. So we have 3 steps for doing that. First, we use the point and the slope to write point slope form, just like we did on the last 4 examples. After we do that, we distribute on the right side of the equation. And then our last step is to get y by itself. So once we do that, we will take point slope form, which looks like this, and we are going to turn it into y equals mx plus b. We start off in point slope, we change to slope intercept. So we are going to write the slope intercept form of the equation. But before we do that, we're going to start off in point slope form. So our first step is to do it just like we were doing those first 4 examples. Any new volunteers that I have not heard from yet today want to help me out with point slope form? May.
Y minus 4 equals 2 times x minus 1.
Very good. Y minus 4 equals 2 times x minus 1. What did step 2 tell us to do, Keon?
Distribute on the right side.
Distribute. So I'm going to distribute my 2 into those parentheses. That leaves me with y minus 4 equals 2x minus 2. What was the last step on that list? Jaquan? Get y by itself. So I want this y to be all alone. Right now we are subtracting 4 from it. How do we undo subtracting 4, Ellie? Add 4 on both sides. Why did I write my plus 4 under the minus 2, Ellie? Good. We want to combine the like terms. So it would not make sense to put the plus 4 under 2x because the 4 does not have an x. They cannot be combined. So we have y equals 2x. What is negative 2 plus 4? Positive or negative? A positive 2, so plus 2. And then we can see that looks like y equals mx plus b. So we are finished. All right, on number 6. Again, we start off in point slope form. Any new volunteers to get me in point slope form? Trinity?
1 minus 5 equals 3 from x minus.
Very good. Y minus 5 equals 3/5 times x minus 5. Step 2 is to distribute. Y minus 5 equals 3/5 x minus, does anybody know what 3/5 times 5 is, Jaquan? 3. The 5's basically cancel each other out. We're just left with 3. My last step is to get y by itself. Who can tell me how to do that? Lexi? Add 5 to both sides. We get y equals 3/5 x plus 2. Make sure you're being careful with adding your integers. This is a minus 3. We have to treat it like a negative 3. All right, we'll just go through the answers on 7 and 8 unless we need to talk about how we got there. Then we can. Any new volunteers to help me out with the answer on number 7? No. Why don't we go to the popsicle sticks? We'll just do it one step at a time. About that time of day that we get these out. All right, so if we go to step 1, it's to put it in point slope form. Tariana, can you tell me what the point slope form is, that first step?
Y minus 3 equals 2 times x minus 6.
Beautiful. There's our first step. Our next step is going to be to distribute. Ellie, what do we have when we distribute?
I got 2x minus 5.
So the y minus 3 stays. The other side is 2x minus 12. Next thing we need to do is get y by itself. May, how do we do that?
Add 3 on each side.
Good. And when we add 3 on each side, what do we end up with, May?
Y equals 2x minus 9.
Very good. Y equals 2x minus 9 is our slope-intercept form. All right, on to the next one. Jalen, what is my point slope form?
Minus -2 equals -3. Parentheses x minus 1.
All right. If we clean that up a little bit, what's going to change? Keon? Good. We would change this to be y plus 2. All right. Next step is to distribute. Carl, what do I get when I distribute? Well, we're not to that part yet. I just want to know what I end up with when I distribute the -3. So y plus 2 equals -3x plus 3. Very good. We have to pay attention to a negative times a negative equaling a positive. All right, our last step is to get y by itself. Jamarl, how would I do that? Subtract 2 from both sides, and then yes, we would do it with the like terms. So we end up with y equals what, Jamarl? Very good. Y equals -3x plus 1. Number 9 is not any different. We're going to follow all the same steps. The only issue is that the fraction causes us a little bit of a headache on this one. Same steps though. Houston, what would my point slope form be? Very good. So we plug in our point and our slope. We have y minus -4 equals -3/5 times x minus 3. To clean that up, I don't want to subtract a negative. I will change that to be just adding a positive. Our next step is to distribute. So when we do that on this one, our fraction sticks around. It's not going to just cancel out like it did on the last one. It's not such a big deal with the x, right? It's just -3/5 x. But when we multiply -3/5 times a -3, first of all, a negative times a negative is going to be a positive. When we multiply 3/5 times 3, what can we put underneath the 3? A 1. When we multiply two fractions together, we just multiply the tops and the bottoms. So in the top, what do I get? A 9, and in the denominator, a 5. So that's what it is right now. It is going to be a positive 9/5. Questions about how we got there? All right, my last step is to get y all by itself. What do I need to do in order to make that happen? Subtract 4. When I subtract 4 from both sides, we have y equals -3/5 x. If you tell me that this comes out to be 5/5, I'm going to complain to your elementary school teachers. Okay? We need a common denominator in order to combine fractions. How can I write 4 as a fraction? Put it over 1. Do these have the same denominator? No, so I cannot subtract them yet. The easiest thing for you to do is get a calculator that'll do this for you. However, you should still be capable of doing it otherwise. How am I going to make this second fraction, 4/1, have a denominator of a 5? What would its numerator have to turn into? 20. If I multiplied the 1 by a 5, the 4 gets multiplied by a 5. Now they have the same denominator, so I can subtract their numerators. What is 9 minus 20? Negative 11. Our denominator stays the same. So we end up with y equals negative 3/5 x minus 11/5. All right, we're going to finish going through these last 3 problems. Ryan, what is my point slope form on number 11?
Y minus negative 3 equals 4/3 times x minus 5.
All right, let's go back to 10 first. Sorry, Ryan. I'm going to make you start over. On number 10, what's our point slope form?
Y minus 4 equals 1/5 times x minus 5.
Perfect. Okay. I like that. Then we have to distribute. Connie, what do I get when I distribute? Not yet. I'm just distributing the 1/5. What's 1/5 times x? Can we do anything with 1/5 times x? No, so we just write it as 1/5 x. Then we take 1/5 times negative 5. A positive times a negative means it will come out to be... Nope, you were right, negative. So then over here, if we take 1/5 times 5, what can I put underneath that 5, Connie? A 1. And we multiply straight across, so it's 1 times 5 and 5 times 1. Can we simplify 5 divided by 5? What does it come out to be? Just a 1. So we can just write that as y minus 4 equals 1/5 x minus 1. Our last step is to get y by itself. Logan, how would I do that?
Plus 4 on both sides.
Very good. Add 4 to both sides. Y equals 1/5 x. What is negative 1 plus 4? A positive 3. Questions on number 10? All right, on number 11. Now that we're really wanting to do number 11. Lexi, what is my point slope form?
Y minus 3 negative 5/2 times x plus 2.
Good. Y minus 3 equals negative 5/2 times x plus 2. Our next step is to distribute. So the y minus 3 is staying the same. When we distribute, Deja, what do we get?
Y minus 2 equals negative 5/2 times 2 negative 5/2 x plus 2.
Let's see, we got to distribute the negative 5/2 to the 2 also. So a negative times a positive will be negative. We can put the 2 over a 1. What's going to cross cancel here? The 2, so we're left with a negative 5. Oh, that's not it. We're not done yet. Last step is to get y all by itself. Kion, how would I do that?
Y by itself.
Yep. So right now we're subtracting 3 from the y. How would I undo that? Add 3, but if I do it to one side, do it to the other side. We have y equals negative 5 halves x. What's negative 5 plus 3? A negative 2. Now we're done with that problem. Last one, I think, right? Danielle, what's our point slope form? Very good. Y plus 3 equals 4/3 x plus 5. Then we have to distribute. I'll help you guys along with that a little bit here. This one is not going to reduce nicely. Did anybody get what our fraction is back here? Jaquan? I think for right now it's a positive, isn't it? Yeah. Right? Yep. We've got a positive 5 and a positive slope. I do agree with the 20/3. Then to get y by itself, what would we do? Ellie? Subtract 3 on both sides. So we have y equals 4/3 x. Did anybody take 20/3 minus 3, Ellie? Plus 11/3. Very good. So if you're not sure how we got that, 20/3 minus 3/1 is the same as 20/3 minus 9/3. And that's how we got the 11/3.